I'm done selling logos. If you're asking your designer for just a logo, you're already putting your business at risk before you even start. This video is for creatives and business owners who want to know why designers are charging more and why a bad logo can quietly turn into an expensive problem. I'm DaMarcus Nelson, the designer, not the basketball player. For the past 10 years, I've scaled from a graphic designer to a creative director to a strategic design thinker, building over 100 logos and multiple brand build-outs for mission-driven, niche, focused brands in my community. I was hired to work on a social media campaign reel for a friend of mine who was a former NFL player. So he has a really large reach, and he was transitioning his NFL career into a wellness and performance brand. I think it was a good idea. The reel turned out very successful, but at the end of it, I saw that something was missing. It needed some type of mark or signifier, and I let him know that I would love to develop him a logo. However, I knew that he wasn't ready for a logo at that time. And I said, hey, how about I develop a graphic for you that you can use in place of where this logo would go, and we go about it like that. And he was okay with it. He launched the reel. It did numbers on Instagram, got him a lot of followers. But then he went to trademark the name. He got the results back, and it turns out there was another business with that same exact name in a different state. So we couldn't use it. And then when I went to look it up, not only did they have the same name, but they had the same exact mark. I'm gonna be honest, I'm not a plagiarizer. I told you this wasn't a logo. It really came from my mind and was developed from a simple sketch that I drew. I thought it was cool. And I'm happy that he didn't trademark this graphic because that would have just resulted in more money and more time wasted.
Spotlight is flickering. It's acting goofy.
Mm.
You see it?
Mm-hmm. A logo is a symbol, mark, or icon that is used to signify or represent a brand, differentiating it from its competitors, creating brand awareness, and communicating values to its customers. A visual identity system is a strategic approach to building a brand in which all aspects of a brand and its touch points and its values are viewed cohesively to develop a system that works across all touch points and not just focusing it on a centralized logo. It's holding together a lot of different components, from the colors to the typography to the values and pillars and services. Clients are typically asking a designer for a logo because that's what they heard they needed when they start a business. They need a logo. And a logo isn't just a decoration, it's a business asset. It's an essential asset to building a business. And within that logo, if done correctly, it should embody the values of that brand or the values of that business. It's not just decoration. It's not just based on preference. When it comes to a visual identity system, typically more mature clients are looking for that. They would say a brand system or a full brand build out. They understand that their business, their brand is not just a logo. It's a living multi-touch point experience for their customers. Therefore, each experience needs to be specifically approached with the core values of the brand in mind. Realistically, those different touch points would show off different elements of that brand. You might see the typography and the colors in one. On another, it might be the tone of voice and how the brand is speaking to me. All of these tie into the systematic approach of a visual identity system. I think as time goes on and as people continue to use apps like Canva or even AI software to develop their logos and things like that, we're going to start seeing a lot of stuff look the same. Therefore, it becomes difficult to differentiate one person from the other. And ultimately, the right person is going to get you tied up into some legal struggles because your brand looks too much like their brand. Small businesses typically fly under the radar when it comes to these things because they're operating locally or within a very, very small community or even just online, and nobody's really paying them any attention. But as I began working with brands that are ready to franchise and ready to scale to be regional, if not national, then we have to start thinking not just about visuals, we have to start thinking about legal structure and legal protection, making sure that we don't get into any problems that can cost all of us a lot of money, headache, and just bad PR later. I see the price of logos going exponentially higher because the colloquial definition of a logo is going to be obsolete. Really, as many entrepreneurs, the ones leading the brands, become more mature, they're going to begin to think way different about their businesses as they expand their reach, get more people with eyes on them, start making more money. They're just going to think differently about their business and care about its protection so that it's not infringed on by someone else. People are going to start inquiring about systems and visual identities at an earlier stage because they want to avoid the risk long term. If you're just starting out and you're telling yourself you can't afford a visual identity system and you can only afford a logo, I think that's rubbish because I think that you pay for what you need and you can't skimp out on paying for your LLC, or you can't skimp out on going to get those papers printed and filed. Like, there are things that you just cannot avoid. And I think that design needs to stop being decoration and start being design, as in a system, as in a planned out system. I think you need to look into your business development, into your mission, your vision, your value proposition, and then also look into your finances, as that is very important. And to be honest, I've had clients who've had all of their guiding principles on paper, all of their pillars and their missions and their visions and all those good things. And then upon having a conversation with me and me educating them on a visual identity system versus just a logo, they realized that they needed to go back to the drawing board, not about their guiding principles, but when it came to money, when it came to their finances. And they needed to get that in order first. And I think that's respectable. I think it's fair. And I think it's wise for them to do that, as opposed to just getting a logo and then having to pay later for a rebrand or a lack of clarity up front. It's better for them to just be patient and approach building a business the correct way versus taking the haphazard approach and costing them a lot of money in the long term. If you're a designer and you're a bit nervous or scared about shifting from logos to systems, I think that's fair. I've been there. There's money on the table. There's your reputation on the table. There's a potential loss of clients on the table. I understand all of those things. People know you just for building logos. But like I said, as the clients you seek get more mature, they are no longer going to just want logos. I think ultimately you have to figure out who you want to be as a designer. If you want to just make the colloquial logos and graphics that people use and they stamp on to their Instagram and to their t-shirts, and it's the same thing across every touch point, that's what you choose to be. You have to consider what are the risks or the trade-offs that come with that. You're going to keep yourself into a certain demographic of people, a certain type of client, and a certain price range. And if you ever want to scale that business or grow a family or start your own company, any of those things, I think that you're going to have to take a shift in your thinking and your approach. I'm gonna be honest, I really shifted to systems because I wanted to work with a different type of client. I want my work to be seen. I don't just work to work. I want my work to be seen by as many people as possible. So when I work with clients who are more mature, who have more of a plan, then that creates more opportunity for that logo to be seen regionally, nationally, and even globally. And then if you stick to just designing logos for these super, super small mom and pop businesses and not pouring into them your creative vision, then you're not really doing anything for the economy. You're not doing much for that person in the long term. You're kind of keeping them where they're at. And I think that it's a designer's job, not just to execute, but to organize and to expand the vision of whatever somebody is coming to you with. We're supposed to be giving vision and organization to people, not just executing whatever it is that they come to us with. The truth is that in the design world, patterns exist. And if you design in a vacuum, meaning that you just sit at your desk and you don't really do any research, you don't talk to the client, you don't benchmark, it's going to produce the same type of results. And that's the reason that that graphic I created for the performance brand ended up being very similar to someone else's. because there was a lack of research, a lack of client consultation involved with it. We're going to find similar patterns when we look into the athletic world and into the faith-based world and into the personal fitness brand world and so forth and so forth. All these different similar motifs exist. So if we don't do research and consult with the client about their X factor and do market positioning and benchmarking and see what's already out there, we're going to be designing in a vacuum. And if we design in a vacuum, we're going to produce the same types of things that already exist because we're not pulling in information from multiple sources to create something unique. I'm not a trademark attorney. I'm a designer. More specifically, I'm a brand designer. And it is my job to mitigate risks. And I do that by doing the research. I do that by benchmarking and running a competitive analysis. And all these things help to avoid obvious risks that my client could potentially run into that will cost them a lot of money. I want my client projects to be successful. Both the designer and the client need to do their due diligence when it comes to picking the name for the business and doing some general high-level research. But ultimately, as the professional designer, it is my job to mitigate most of the risks when it comes to building out the brand visually, in words, in tone, to avoid as many risks as possible, and ultimately educating the client on the next step after we've developed the brand is to run it through trademarking. You need to get it trademarked. A copyright isn't enough. A copyright is for artwork only. We need to get these things trademarked and begin to think into design of business, not just the business of design. I'm personally not focused on being just a designer as decorator or designer as one who executes, but being a designer as strategist and a designer as business scaler and a designer as entrepreneur. That's always been important to me ever since I got into the business of design, because I realized that building brands was a gateway into building a business. And I'm ultimately providing a business service. And I don't want to provide my clients a disservice by not doing the proper research it takes and not properly educating them on a realm that they're inquiring to me about. I'm the designer here. I'm the professional. They're inquiring with me or you for a reason. Educate them. They're inquiring with you because of your skill set, but also because you should have a level of knowledge on the industry and how to go about it that they don't know about. Their focus isn't design. So keep your main thing the main thing so that they can do what they do best. So if you want to learn more about my process, read my articles, or hear more from me, you can start by visiting my website at DaMarcusNelson.com. The link is in the bio. You can like this video, you can subscribe to the channel, and share it with a friend. I'm on LinkedIn, YouTube, and I'm online. Give me an email. We'd love to talk more with you.